Hey guys, this is The Six Machine and welcome back to another Warhammer video. Today we got a Warhammer Community article focusing on the new Grav tank for the Primaris Marines based on the Impulsor chassis, the Gladiator and its variants, the Valiant, the Reaper and the Lancer. Now the stats and price for these are all in the Marine Codex, so there's nothing particularly new in the article. Everyone's seen the tanks, everyone's seen the points costs, everyone's seen the weapon profile and everything like that, but it kind of did make me want to dig out the codex and have a look through and just have a little chat about which one I think is the best. So first off, I just want to say I actually really like the model. I love the Impulsor profile, and I know a lot of people aren't too keen on the grav aspect of the Primaris vehicles, but to be honest, I actually really kind of dig it. I get that it's not to everyone's taste, but personally I will probably be getting 3 Gladiators to be able to at least run each of the 3 variants whenever I have a game. But anyway, let's take a look at these variants and see which one may be the best and which one may get the most amount of play. So first up, we're going to take a look at the one that I think is probably going to be seeing the least amount of time on the tabletop, and that is the poor Lancer. So the Lancer is the long-range anti-tank sniper variant and comes in at Toughness 8, 12 wounds, with a ballistic skill of 3 up and a 10-inch move, and it brings to bear the Lancer Laser Destroyer, which is a heavy 2, strength 10, -3, D3 plus 3 damage gun, as well as its 2 storm bolters. It comes in at a flat 200 points and has the updated equivalent optics like the Executioner, which means that its Laser Destroyer is hitting on 2s, which is nice and all, but for me it just seems a little bit pricey at 200 points for essentially just that main gun. The 2 storm bolters are kind of neither here nor there, and I mean, yes, the main gun is potent in its damage, you know, hitting on 2s and then doing D3 plus 3 damage, but the fact is that it's still strength 10, so that means that whilst that's good, you're going to be wounding most vehicles that you're targeting on 3s rather than 2s, and when you get out of the Devastator Doctrine, the fact that it's only -3 means that most of them, and I'm thinking about sort of like Space Marine level vehicles here like Predators and Rhinos, they're still going to be getting their 6-up save, which is, you know, not reliable, but it's still something. And the fact that it's 2 shots and it has those disadvantages just means that it suffers very much from that swingy high risk high reward profile, which I think that the other 2 variants don't suffer from quite as much. And for me that just means that at the end of the day it really doesn't have that reliability which you want, especially when you're going to be aiming this thing at your opponent's, you know, really heavy hitting stuff and the scary vehicles. You don't want to be, yes, you're hitting on 2s, but you don't want to roll a 2 for wounding when you're wounding on 3s at strength 10, and it's going to be so annoying when you wound that Land Raider, and then, well, not a Land Raider will have a 5-up save, but you wound that Rhino or that Predator and it rolls a 6 on its save. I think just for me, the fact that there are obviously hoops to jump through, and I mean, you know, hitting on 2s, winning on 3s isn't bad, but when you've only got 2 shots and you're paying 200 points for it, that's a level of swinginess that I personally think I would probably try and avoid when I was list building. What we have up next is another big reason for not bringing the Lancer, and that is the Valiant variant of the Gladiator. Try saying Valiant variant over and over again. I'm not going to, but there we go. Valiant variant, Valiant variant. Yeah. This is a 250 point tank, so it's a sizable chunk more than the Lancer. You know, an extra 50 points can get you quite a lot in an army, but you're getting the same base profile on the chassis, toughness 8, 12 wounds, 3-up ballistic skill with a 10-inch move, and your weapons change to a twin las talon and 2 multi-melters. Compare that to the laser destroyer from the Lancer and its 2 storm bolters. So you lose the 4 or 8 bolter shots depending on range, which is kind of meh, and you lose the 2 strength 10 D3 plus 3 damage shots. But instead, you're getting 4 strength 9 D6 damage shots and 4 strength 8 D6 or D6 plus 2 damage shots. Now, these weapons do both have a range of 24 inches compared to the 72 inches of the Lancer. So yes, you do need to move up the board and get a lot closer to your enemy, but with toughness 8, 12 wounds and a 3-up save, you do have a reasonable level of survivability on these tanks, and also with the new boards in 40k, staying at 72 inches all game is extremely unlikely anyway, so in my opinion, why not just double down, move your Gladiator right up, and unleash those 8 shots which are doing potentially D6 damage each right into the nearest couple of vehicles? I just think that overall, if you want to take out enemy heavy units and armor, the sheer amount of anti-tank firepower that the Valiant can throw out really does set it above the Lancer. And with a 10-inch move, you still have what is essentially a 34-inch threat radius, which means you can still protect it somewhat in deployment in case you don't get first turn, and still have the range to move out and pop a tank or two when you do get to go. I feel like if the Lancer had kept the old Aquilon optics rule, it may have had a better balance with the Valiant, but for me, I will always take 8 anti-tank shots at a shorter range over 2 at a longer range any day. And I definitely think that's well worth the 50 extra points compared to the Lancer. If nothing else, it's worth noting that with the Valiant you can potentially target 3 enemy vehicles with its weapons, because it's got the Las Talon and 2 multi-melters, and potentially destroy or damage 3 enemy vehicles, whereas not counting the Stormbolters, the Lancer will only ever be able to destroy 1 vehicle a turn, and that's a huge difference for me. Like, being able to, I mean, you could almost, I know it's 250 points, which is a big for a sacrificial unit, but you could almost just move the Valiant up, shoot, you know, your weapons at 3 different vehicles, and yeah, you may not destroy them all, but if you destroy 1 and cripple 2, you've probably made your points back on the Valiant just there and then. The last variant, the Reaper, is a different kettle of fish altogether, being primarily an anti-infantry tank with 24 heavy onslaught cannon shots at strength 6 -1 and 1 damage, and 8 Tempest bolter shots at strength 4 -1 and 1 damage. Now this tank is just going to chew through infantry of all sorts. I mean, hordes, light infantry, marines, terminators, even things like centurions and obliterators are gonna sort of very quickly melt under this much firepower. The thing is with the Reaper as well is that, yeah, against a lot of marine vehicles you're going to be winning on 5s, but when you come up against things like land speeders or venoms or vipers or other certain Xenos vehicles, you may well be winning on 4s or even 3s with its strength 6 gun. So whilst you wouldn't really want this to be firing at, say, a Land Raider or a Predator, you're still going to be taking out essentially a Venom a turn with its main gun, and you know, when you're up against Eldar or Dark Eldar, that Tempest Bolter at strength 4 -1 is going to just chew through those toughness 3 infantry with their 4 or 5 up saves. The Reaper itself comes in at 230 points, so it's a nice middle ground between the Lancer and the Valiant, and obviously depending on what you're going to be facing, the Reaper may be an absolute win, or you may want something with a bit of a heavier punch. But I think realistically, even if you aren't sure what may be across the table from you, I would almost always rather take a Reaper as a generalist slash anti-infantry slash anti-light vehicle tank over the Lancer for that extra 30 points. And for the times when you know you're up against, say, an Astra Militarum tank company, the Valiant is going to be an insanely easier pick over the Lancer for me for that task as well. I think in general, if I had to rank which I would take if I had no idea what I was going up against, it would probably be the Valiant, closely followed by the Reaper, and then the Lancer. I mean, I'll be honest, I can't think of a scenario unless, as I mentioned earlier, I really needed everything I had already put in my army and I didn't have any capacity at all for shaving off 50 points. I can't think of a time when I would ever bring the Lancer over the Valiant. I really can't. There may be some niche situation where it does better, but for that extra 50 points, I genuinely can't think of a target that I would rather have the Lancer shooting at it instead of the Valiant. All of the Gladiator tanks also have the smoke screen keyword, which makes them that little bit more survivable as well, and really, if anything, means that the Lancer and its ability to stay back and out of range of enemy guns is even less of a great advantage, because at least with the Reaper and the Valiant moving forward, you can still get that -1 to hit to ensure they do get into range to unleash their firepower. I think the last thing that's worth mentioning is, of course, looks, because that's quite important too. Now, whilst I think the Valiant is the best in terms of its board potential, I do have to say I think objectively it looks the worst. It's not bad by any stretch, but for me the Reaper turret just oozes that cool look of, you know, being able to send thousands of rounds down into the enemy battle lines, and the Lancer with its single long, like, hefty looking barrel just looks like it should be more of a threat than the stubby little las talons of the Valiant. It feels more like a no pun intended, but it feels more like a predator, you know, like hunting, stalking the battlefield and just casually one-shotting enemy tanks. So it is a shame that I think the Lancer is probably going to be the one that we see least on the tabletop. I do think that against certain armies, people are going to just bring the Reaper just to mow and chew through hordes of orcs or gaunts or Imperial Guard. And I mean, one of the good things about this tank is that it does look like it's going to be very easy to magnetize, so people will probably be able to swap them around based on what they need. But I do think that 99% of the time, if you're facing a Gladiator across the board, it is almost certainly going to be a Reaper or a Valiant. So that was just a quick video on my thoughts on the Gladiator variants. Which of them do you like the most? Both in terms of their tabletop prowess and in terms of their looks. I would really like to know which ones you will be building first, or if you'll be picking up the kit at all, and which one you're most excited to use and add to your Space Marine force. Let me know in the comments below, and as always, until next time, I will catch you later, guys.